crossed.
Fingers crossed. But there was actually just something that, like, because I've seen Epica live once, and I saw them up in Dublin in the Tivoli, and it was just something that kind of was like, that sucks.
What happened?
I was looking it up just before we started recording, and apparently, and I only realised it now, like in 2019, I think, or maybe it was even earlier, the Tivoli was sold, and then they just took down the building entirely.
Oh, really?
Because they're going to put a hotel in there now. So, like if you go on Google Maps now and you go to the Tivoli,
yes,
you'll just see like the picture is just construction and scaffolding, and you can see that the actual building was cut out. And
was it a nice venue?
Oh yeah, it was a great venue.
Was it quite big or?
No, it was actually a very small one. Like it was kind of academy sized, but without the upper tier.
Yeah.
So maybe it'd fit 200 people.
That
maybe
is unfortunate
300.
though.
Yeah.
That, a place where you went to see a band that you really like kind of...
I've seen a couple of bands. I saw a couple of bands there, and it was a nice venue because it was intimate, and also you just could... even if you were near the back, you were still close enough to enjoy it, and it was just...
Does it kind of feel like they're in your front room almost?
Almost, and it was just great atmosphere altogether. But yeah, like, there wouldn't be, like, anything, like stand out about the venue itself. It was just a shame when I saw that. So I just said I'd highlight that because I was pissed off at it. But look...
I'd be disappointed too, especially if it's somewhere that you liked, and somewhere quite intimate, like we... have seen it over the years ourselves, that there's a lot of small venues that are kind of gone that we would have, liked to go to even locally. But sure, look, hopefully we'll get to see many more bands in the future together in many more locations.
Exactly. And one thing just kind of to wrap up the kind of Epica history is I thought was kind of, it's an interesting thing they've done for their latest album, The Holograph Principle.
Yeah.
You can listen to the entirety through.
Yes.
But they also released on Spotify a commentary track version of it. So what they were trying to do for each song, you
like
can
a little explanation almost.
Yeah, exactly.
And sometimes you would really like that from an album, wouldn't you?
Yeah, so it's the artists themselves talking about each of the songs in that album and what they were trying to do and go from there. And it's really nice little touch on it now. It just works together now. That
sounds absolutely deadly. I'm 100% going to check that out. Thank you so much for educating me today, Mark.
Yeah, you're welcome. And sure, look, we will now move on to our classic album section, where we will go into more of Epica. We're talking about the album The Phantom Agony.
Oh, great Odin's Raven!
Cool. So yeah, we're doing my classic album review this week, and it's Epica, The Phantom Agony. So I suppose you all know I like the album. Obviously, I chose the album, but I suppose what did you guys think? Jen, what did you think?
I liked it. As you know, I liked it in parts because we've already kind of had little chats about it. I did feel some of it was a little bit too hard for me. I quite liked I quite liked most of the songs. Parts that I could actually understand the words.
But so you understand Latin perfectly, do you?
No, but you know what I mean. Where I could make out what the words were. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed it more than I kind of expected to. The sound was really good. Just in general, it was really, really good. Definitely a few of the songs will be making it onto my Spotify list. I was kind of surprised by how much I liked most of the album. Little bits that I'd kind of probably, fast forward through. But yeah, I liked it for the most part.
Okay, that's good to know. And what about yourselves, Wayne, Laura? What did you think?
Wayne is trying to formulate a response.
It's kind of like so hard to be nice. See, this it really feels like you were saying it last week with the whole kind of thing. Oh God, you're going to think it's kind of like because
tit for tat.
Yeah.
No, I quite like her voice. I really like Simone Simons. Her name is. She's fantastic, classically trained singer and all the rest. She's gorgeous, lush voice and all the rest. I think their later stuff is better. That's what I like, because we kind of listened around some of the Epica stuff and all the rest. And I think they found their stride a little bit later in their career. I would be more inclined to listen to their later stuff than this particular album.
Yeah,
that's
I found
what I'd say.
a challenging album. And I went off looking up at like reviews of it and stuff, and it does seem to be fucking split down the middle, where you have people like myself that are like, I actually can't listen to this. I actually can't listen, and it was like, I don't know why I can't, and I kept trying and trying.
Your earballs off.
And there was like a couple of reviews that were very, very similar, where it was like, I physically can't.
Oh no, I didn't have that reaction. I could listen to it in the background. It reminded me of something that would be sort of. It sounds like, to me, I was kind of like, this sounds like it should be in a Final Fantasy computer game. As a
yeah, you can see the
that's
anime
what it is.
thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that's what it sounds like to me. So from that kind of point of view, I was like, yeah, I can listen to this. I can have this on the background. I didn't have the visceral reaction that you did. I was this is
like
fine.
I did try, like I kept listening to it, and I was like, put it on again today before we record, about a couple of hours before, and it was like, oh, actually, it's not too bad. It's sort of like, I mean, it is. When people say it's a challenge, and I can understand that, it's kind of like the more you listen to it, probably the more you'd hear. And sometimes the best albums are the ones that you don't like at the start.
Yeah.
But I did really, because I kind of like Epica, and this was difficult. Like even because it was a thing, then I went off kind of going, maybe I don't like Epica, and I went back listening to their later stuff, and I was like, yeah, I do like Epica.
They're not bad.
Yeah,
that's how I do quite like symphonic. When I'm in the mood, I like symphonic metal. I like Nightwish. I like, a few of the other sort of it melds well, doesn't it? Metal with sort of this kind of operatic singing and all the rest, and sweeping harmonies and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, to me, it sits well on sort of Final Fantasy kind of a thing, and that's exactly to me that's what it sounds like. But as you said, it just didn't sit well with you. I found it okay. It's not something that set my world on fire, but I was quite happy to sit and listen to it.
I was kind of pleasantly surprised, to be honest, because I didn't even, really ever delve into the world of symphonic metal before. But yeah, I was kind of intrigued. I know obviously your experience was probably completely different to mine, Wayne, but like I was listening to it in the car, and I was listening to it then just chilling out as well, and it was just really, really enjoyable, I think, to a point. Yeah, there were parts where I felt it was a little bit jarring for me.
It'd be a genre you would be relatively new to, though, as well. Though,
very.
Where it kind of like that symphonic metal. And to be honest, I really can't argue with any of the points that any of you brought up. Like it's definitely like Epica would have been. I would have started listening to them maybe around 2017, 2018, and the first album I would have listened to is their latest one at the moment. I think there's another one set to come out this year, or because of COVID-19 it could be early next year, but it would have been The Holographic Principle. And that one, when I listened to that, I really that one got me hooked to Epica. And at the time then, once I got hooked on it, I went back and listened through their discography, and I really enjoyed it all. But I can't fault you with what you're saying. Like, it is when you start listening to their older stuff and you just go from the newest stuff to the older stuff, you can clearly see that they've evolved, and they've definitely come into their own since then. And this is kind of this is a much rougher sound, for better and for worse, than like their newer stuff, where they've really found their own and they kind of have toned it up, and it's just, I think it's nicer as well. But
it seemed like they were kind of just trying to find their sound at that time.
But this is also just because right off the bat, like as we were talking about previously in the history of Epica, this album came right after the lead singer, well, not the lead singer, the lead guitarist and frontman, Mark Ensign, left After Forever. So it kind of has a slight similar sound to After Forever in this one, because they still haven't found their own voice fully. They're still kind of partially that, partially kind of building their foundations. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag because of that. But regardless of that, though, I really enjoyed it still as an album. I think it's a solid album, not a knockout of the park album, but still really solid. And I think it still has some of my favorite songs on it.
Well, it's a thing, kind of like when I was looking up the reviews, you have some people that it varies from people giving it like 40 to kind of like fucking 90. But when people seem to like it, they like love it. Like it's like the high reviews are high kind of reviews, and then the low reviews. So I think it is very much kind of,
it's very divisive.
like, I mean, but it is a thing. I do think it's a challenging album. I don't know why it is, because it's. I can't put my finger, but it's not like the topics around it are challenging.
Maybe a little bit in their music as well.
Yeah, because
like,
the vocals are fabulous.
But I think the actual, like, you can feel it with the, like, I think this one, they're still a little bit more guitar heavy than they tend to, like, down the road. They go a little bit less guitar heavy. There's still a lot of guitar in it, but they kind of use a little bit more operatic and classical instruments, more piano, and it kind of
diversified.
They balance it a little bit more. They fine tune it. Whereas this one, it's a little bit more heavy on, like, kind of growly vocals. It's heavy on guitar, and because of that, I think they're experimenting to try to find their own feel. And this one is kind of just their rough draft, I think.
One thing that I kind of discovered through this kind of, I will call it an experience, I suppose. And I don't mean that in a negative way, because I would genuinely give it about 75 out of 100 for me. But one thing that I would say is that it kind of did open up my mind in a sense that I don't dislike all kind of metal.
In your head, you just kind of like shut the door and metal.
Yeah, and over the past few weeks and the podcasts that we've done and the music that I've kind of been exposed to and that I've kind of opened my mind to has made me realise that I don't like that growly kind of the singing, that throaty, very singing where I don't understand and I can't make out any of the words. Don't like that whatsoever. It does genuinely give me a headache. Whereas I do like the more operatic, kind of classical, but still that little bit harder in a sense. Music.
Clean vocals.
See, I think this kind of stuff as well, it's like a gateway drug for people as well, because I guarantee probably give it a year's time and you'll be sitting around the house in corpse paint listening to mayhem.
Well, let's see.
Well, I don't know about that now, because I have been listening to symphonic metal for a while, and one of the like as we were saying before, one of the key things with symphonic metal is that it brings together these more kind of classically trained vocalists that usually you'd see in like operas and whatnot, with the more growly vocals that you're used to seeing in like, or hearing even in death metal or black metal or something along those lines. And when they come together like that and you have that duality, all kind of the growly darker vocals mixed with these lighter vocals, I think it works really well. But to this day, I still am not a huge fan of like the just pure growly vocals. I think it goes too in and it doesn't have a balance.
I would tend to agree with that. Like when I started listening to this album first, I was like, my very first impression was, am I gonna like get into operatics or something here? Like this is,
well, yeah, the opening piece of it is like most Epica albums have like maybe like a minute long opening thing where it's just it sounds like I think Jen, the first thing, you're like, am I listening to a church?
Like, am I in a church album right now? I got this really weird flashback to being in primary school and listening to the choir in the old cathedral church right behind us and kind of going, what?
Yeah, it starts off a bit slow, this one, but then it comes into it like, right out of the bat with the first couple songs.
Yeah, like I definitely enjoyed it. I think it was to around the middle of the album where when we were listening this morning, I actually genuinely started to get a headache. I was there going, don't like this part. I'm not sure exactly which song it was, to be perfectly honest with you. But for the first half, yeah, definitely. Then I started to kind of go, is it over yet?
I've had enough. Let's
a little bit.
So yes to Simone and Simon's vocals, no to Mark Jensen's.
But I did feel it kind of ended strong enough as well, though, because the last song that we listened to, I enjoyed that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's, I don't know, it's something that I think I actually probably will go back and explore again. And I think I will listen to the album again.
His vocals, in fairness, are fairly dreadful. Kind of for like death metal singer, kind of like, you know, that growl and kind of. When I heard it at first, I started laughing.
Yeah.
Don't really have much to compare it to myself.
Yeah. It was very like Cookie Monster kind of. Yeah.
That's what it felt like to me. So I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Well, at least in the like later ones, they kind of like realized that a bit of it's good because like you can see like in the later albums, there's less like kind of solo areas where he's just growling and more like maybe he'll use it to balance out an area, and he's also kind of somewhat improved on his growly vocals. So it's I kind of went, like, pull it back and you work on them a little bit as well. So, yeah, in this one, they are a little bit rougher in all manner.
They were all fairly young at this stage as well, which is because like I went off looking at that, like, there's very little about this album around at all, which is
it kind of
weird.
came out of nowhere, and it did relatively well up in Norway and like kind of in the Scandinavian countries, but it didn't really